Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I am going to be trying out several Spring Cup teams recommended by some of the top women battlers in the Pokemon Go community. I recently saw this post on Twitter featuring 9 very solid teams recommended by women in the PvP community, and I just wanted to show my appreciation and support for this post. I think it's really nice to have that representation. And when I saw these teams, I felt like a lot of them were really interesting, so I really wanted to showcase them, and that is what we are going to be doing in today's video. By the way, huge shout out to Inadequance and Rise to Occasion. I believe they are the ones who created the infographic that you see on the left. Now you guys know me, I kind of have to turn everything into a challenge or a game, so I thought it would be fun to play a game where I have to use each team, and before I can move on to the next team, I have to get a win with the previous team. So I'll start off from the top, and then I'll work my way down through the list, so I'll have to get a win with the top team first before I can move on to the second one. Alrighty, let's get into the battles. Up first, I am going to be using Poliwrath 97. I'm sorry if I pronounce your usernames wrong, but I'm going to be using her team, and she recommended a Shadow Tentacruel lead with a safe swap of Trevenant and a closer of Shadow Quagsire. Now, I don't have the Shadow Tentacruel, unfortunately, so I went with a normal Tentacruel. Also, I'm not really sure what the movesets are on all the Pokemon, so I just assumed for this one that the Tentacruel would be running a full poison moveset, especially since it is a water and grass meta, so full poison moveset made sense. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get that lucky with the team at first. I did have to play it a couple of times before I finally got my win, but that's not to say that the team isn't good. It is because I got really unlucky. As you see in this game, I did face a Jellicent on the lead, and Jellicent is absolutely going to wall Tentacruel, unfortunately. Now, I safe swap into my Trevenant. My opponent brings out a Roserade. I let my Trevenant go, but at least I take a shield from them. But my opponent has the ultimate wall in the back. They have a Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is going to be really good against both Tentacruel and Quagsire, unfortunately, so I decided to top left there. There wasn't much I could do. Moving on to the next game, we are going to be seeing a not so great lead. It is going to be a Ferrothorn, and I decide to stay in here against this Ferrothorn because I don't want the Ferrothorn aligned to my Quagsire. Now, Quagsire can actually hit for neutral with the Mud Bombs, but I'm not really familiar with the matchup. Again, being unfamiliar with the team and using it for the first time adds another layer to the challenge. But anyways, I do let my Tentacruel go, and my opponent actually brings in their own Tentacruel. My opponent is switch locked and I am not, so I'm going to take advantage of this here. I'm able to take the Tentacruel easily out with Quagsire, and then because our switch timers are misaligned, I can bring Trevenant into this Ferrothorn, and I'm expecting my opponent to have another water type in the back. It makes sense because they led Ferrothorn, they usually have 2 water types with it. If this is true, then I should be in a good place. However, it looks like they are going to be having that Roserade in the back. If I can take their final shield here, I will be good. This is because I have energy on my Quagsire. My opponent has to go ahead and throw energy here. They're not going to be able to reach a Grass Knot on Quagsire without taking a Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb is going to be more than enough to take the Roserade out because of its poison typing, and I am going to be able to outpace to a second Mud Bomb to take the Ferrothorn out. And with that, we get our first win. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next team, it is going to be recommended by Final Boss AJ, and she recommends a lead of Abomasnow with a safe swap of Shadow Poliwrath, but with Mudshot and Dynamic Punch. And Poliwrath, she says, is going to be the bait for Lanturn, so it's going to lure out Lanturn, and then your closer is going to be Quaquaval. I love this team. This team is so interesting, and I kind of want to use it more after the challenge. But anyways, we do get a really nice lead of Trevenant first up against our Abomasnow. My opponent is going to swap into a Lanturn, and they make a nice catch on our Weather Ball. However, they let the Energy Ball go as well, so I am able to take the Lanturn out. I do, however, have to throw this next Weather Ball because my opponent was going to get to another move, and I also wanted to keep a little bit of energy on my Abomasnow just in case. But my opponent is going to have an Empoleon in the back. I immediately swap into my Poliwrath. I do not want the Empoleon to farm my Abomasnow down. My Abomasnow is still quite healthy, and energy on Empoleon can be very dangerous for the 2 fighting types that I have in the back. So I bring in my Poliwrath immediately, and my opponent stayed in with their Empoleon against our Poliwrath so that they could reach a Drill Peck and take a shield from us. However, that means that I could get a lot of energy and reach 2 Icy Winds on the Trevenant, take both of my opponent's shields, and then I can bring Quaquaval in, and with shields down, I can land a close combat on the Empoleon, and then I can wing attack the Trevenant down and take that win. GG's to our opponent. The next team we are going to be using was recommended by N. Hoff, and she recommends Empoleon lead, Shadow Empoleon. However, I don't have Shadow Empoleon, so again, I'm just going to use normal Empoleon. And she recommends a safe switch to be Trevenant with a closer of Tropius. So we're going to go ahead and use this team, but unfortunately, I get really unlucky in the first game. I am going to be up against a Poliwrath on the lead, immediately swapping into my Trevenant, and my opponent is staying in, which is pretty good for me because I need to get this out of the way. That way my Empoleon has a better chance. Just going to be going straight Seed Bomb here in this matchup. I should be able to outpace because my opponent is running counter and they are going to be going straight Icy Wind. However, here I knew my opponent was going to catch, so I really should have watched out for the catch here. And they catch on a Core Breaker for my team. I don't have Trevenant up against this anymore because I needed to swap and clear the debuff anyways. I wasn't going to be doing any damage to this Hisuian Electrode. So I bring Tropius in, which was a terrible idea. They're able to go for 2 wild charges against Tropius and take it out. I bring Trevenant back in, hoping I could farm it down, but it looked like my opponent was going to reach another move, so I went ahead and I threw the Seed Bomb. They're able to take our Trevenant out with an Icy Wind from their Poliwrath, and then my opponent is going to have a Ferrothorn in the back. And this is going to be GG's for me. I'm going to go ahead and top left because I can't do much against the Ferrothorn. Moving on to the next game, we are going to be running the same team because you guys know the rules of my silly little game. I have to get a win with the team before I move on to the next team. Anyways, we are going to be seeing a very nice lead of Tentacruel into our Empoleon. Empoleon is going to be resisting everything from Tentacruel. That Scald still hurt, however. But then my opponent swaps into a Shadow Quagsire, and I immediately bring in Trevenant. I know that they are going to go straight for Stone Edge, so I decide to shield the first Stone Edge, because if they land it, then they will be able to take me out with a Mud Bomb on the next move. They won't, I don't think they'll be able to Mudshot me down, but I did want to try to win this, and it looks like my opponent is going to be able to reach a 3rd Stone Edge, unfortunately, so they take both of our final shields, but I am able to take both of my opponent's shields as well. So we both are shields down. I'm going to be able to bring Empoleon in against this Tentacruel. I have to go for the Drill Peck. I can't take another Scald on Empoleon if I want it to survive, but then my opponent has a Trevenant in the back, and Tropius is absolutely going to be destroying Trevenant. But guess what, you guys? That was the exact team that we ran in the beginning. So GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next team, it is going to be recommended, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounce this name, by Lundberger. I hope I pronounced the name right. Anyways, she is going to be recommending a Shadow Poliwrath lead with a safe swap of Trevenant and a closer of Ferrothorn. Now, she says that she got it from the... Oh boy, I am going to mispronounce this so badly. Is it Utrecht Special Event Champion? Anyways, we are going to be seeing a terrible lead of Shadow Tentacruel into our Poliwrath. Tentacruel is going to be absolutely walling Poliwrath. However, I immediately swap into my Trevenant, and my opponent stays in with Tentacruel, and for some reason they let me take them out. They let me land 2 Seed Bombs on the Tentacruel. That's enough to take it out, and then they bring in Tropius. Now, I can't swap out of Trevenant, so I just have to let myself get farmed down by this Tropius because I want this Ferrothorn aligned to the Tropius. I would much rather have Ferrothorn aligned to Tropius than Poliwrath. Then my opponent is going to bring in a Roserade. They have a Roserade in the back. This is going to get really tricky. I bring Poliwrath in immediately, and I should be able to get to an Icy Wind and take my opponent's final shield. And then I decide to shield whatever my opponent is going to throw at my Poliwrath here, because I know that I can get to the Icy Wind and take them out. And then I can reach a Flash Cannon on my Ferrothorn and take the Tropius out as well. GG's to our opponent. The next team we're going to be using was recommended by, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced it, is it Defy 250? Anyways, she recommends using a lead of Pelipper, a safe swap of Tentacruel, and a closer of Jumpluff. Now, I don't have a Jumpluff, unfortunately, and I don't want to spend Stardust making one because they're super expensive. So I go ahead and I replace Jumpluff with Tropius. I think Tropius should be doing the job just as well. In the match, we are going to be seeing a tricky lead of Tentacruel, and it's a tricky lead. Why? Because Tentacruel is quite bulky, Pelipper is really squishy, so the poison jabs are going to be hurting. And at least we're able to land a Hurricane, but you see, because of Tentacruel's bulk, it was able to absorb the Hurricane, and I decide to let my Pelipper go and just let whatever my opponent is going to throw land. They land a Blizzard, they're able to take Pelipper out, but I'm hoping that the Pokemon that I have in the back will be able to clean up here. I wanted to bring in my Tentacruel and farm theirs down completely, but my opponent doesn't do that. They swap immediately into a Trevenant, and I decide to go for an Acid Spray. That way I can make the Tropius and Trevenant matchup a lot easier for my Tropius. I bring Tropius in, I go for a full farm down, and then my opponent brings in their Tentacruel instead of bringing whatever they had in the back. That means they are weak to Tropius in the back. We're able to Air Slash the Tentacruel down, and then my opponent just top lefts, so I'm not able to know what they had. The next team we're going to be using was recommended by Rocket Claire, and she recommends a lead of Pelipper, a safe swap of Ferrothorn, and a closer of Trevenant. Now, in the game, we are going to be faced with a Tropius on the lead. I'm going to stay in this with my Pelipper. I'm going to take the first move, and then I'm just going to go straight for that Hurricane. I'm going to pretend like I'm going for a bait. Hopefully the Hurricane lands. It lands, we're able to take the Tropius out, and then I can reach another Hurricane on this Dugong. We're able to take a shield from them, and then I can bring Ferrothorn in against the Dugong. It is going to be taking neutral from both of the moves that Dugong has. And then my opponent, as soon as they see the Ferrothorn, they swap into a Poliwrath. I have Trevenant in the back. Trevenant, again, is going to be doing very well against the Poliwrath. They only had a shield left, so I was able to take it with the first Seed Bomb. I should be able to outpace to the next. Actually, I can farm up as much energy as I can and throw before my opponent reaches another move. I have enough energy to reach a Seed Bomb on Dugong. They don't throw immediately, and then I can bring Ferrothorn in, go for a Power Whip, and take that Dugong out and take that win. GG's to our opponent. The next team I'm going to use was recommended by Katie46, and she recommends a lead of Serperior. Oh my god, I cannot say Serperior. I've been trying to say Serperior for the last 10 minutes. I've re-recorded this so many times. Anyways, Serperior, and a safe swap of Empoleon and a closer of Pelipper. She says that you will use the Empoleon to draw out the Lanturn. On the lead in the first game that we play with this team is a Trevenant. Now, keeping in mind that my opponent might have a Lanturn in the back, I want to keep my Serperior healthy in case I need it. So we were able to land the first aerial ace on the Trevenant, and then my opponent shields the second one because I shielded their Shadow Ball. I was in range of Shadow Ball, so I went ahead and I invested both shields into Serperior, and then I swap into my Empoleon, thinking that I could draw a potential Lanturn out, but we draw out Dugong, and Dugong is not going to be great for my Empoleon because they have access to Drill Run. I don't have any shields because I use them on my lead, so I have to take the Drill Run, but my opponent does let their Dugong go to the Drill Pecks from my Empoleon. However, they are going to have a Tentacruel in the back, and with shields down, Tentacruel is not going to be great for my Pelipper. They are going to be able to land a Sludge Wave that is enough to take Pelipper out, again because Pelipper is super squishy. And then now I just have this Serperior up against this Tentacruel, and I'm not going to be able to do anything. GG's to our opponent. Unfortunately, we are going to lose that match, but we were able to get a 4-1 in that set, and I'm really close to Veteran. It would have been really cool to get to Veteran with these teams, but maybe Veteran is for another time. Moving on to the next match, again running with the same team, we are going to lead Serperior into Tropius. That's not great for us. I swap into my Empoleon, and my opponent is going to have a Poliwrath in the back. We go for a Drill Peck. At least we're able to take a shield from them, but they are able to fully farm us down and have so much energy on their Poliwrath for our Serperior. Now, unfortunately, I do have to take 2 Icy Winds here. I do decide to let Serperior go, and I'm just hoping that my Pelipper will be able to sweep whatever my opponent has in the back. I'm putting all my eggs in one basket at this point. My plan was to farm the Poliwrath down completely with the Pelipper. However, because they were going to reach an Icy Wind, I went for a Weather Ball, but my opponent shielded it, and they were able to get the Icy Wind off anyways and debuff our Pelipper. Now, even with shields down, the Hurricane is not enough to take the Tropius out, but either way, my opponent has an Empoleon in the back, and Pelipper is not going to be able to win the match against Empoleon. So unfortunately, we are going to be taking a loss there. On to the next match, we are going to be seeing a Wigglytuff on the lead. This is the first time I see this actually this season, and my opponent is going to go ahead and shield the Frenzy Plants as expected. I'm going to go ahead and shield the Icy Wind here, and then my plan is to swap into one of my back two Pokemon. I decide to swap into my Pelipper because the Empoleon is the harder answer to Wigglytuff. But guess what Pelipper draws out? It draws out a Lanturn, and I don't know what I did there. I, for some reason, had a lot of energy on Pelipper and I didn't throw it on the Lanturn. I guess I just felt defeated at this point. But I bring Serperior in, and my opponent also shields the Frenzy Plant, so I just give up here because they have a full health Lanturn, and they were just going to destroy our Empoleon with it. So GG's to our opponent. On to the next match, we are going to be faced with a Core Breaker for the team. I'm not really sure what my backline will do against this Ferrothorn. Now they take an Aerial Ace and then they swap into a Tentacruel. I really need shields out of the way, so I go for a Frenzy Plant, hoping my opponent will shield. We get a shield out of them successfully, and then I can bring Empoleon in against this Tentacruel. And Empoleon again is going to be walling Tentacruel. I no-shield the Acid Spray, and I'm also going to no-shield the Scald. We survive with quite a bit of health, and my plan here was to farm up as much energy as I could. That way I would have a Drill Peck ready for the Ferrothorn, and then maybe if I can weaken it with a Drill Peck, I might have a chance against it. But my opponent goes ahead and they shield the Drill Peck to save their Tentacruel. So I have a plan now. All I have to do is bring Pelipper in, farm the Tentacruel down, and then if I can land a Hurricane on the Ferrothorn, I'll be able to take it out. All I needed in this match was for my opponent's shields to be down. That way my Pelipper would shine. The Hurricane KOs the Ferrothorn, thankfully, and then we're also able to reach another Hurricane on Tropius, take the Tropius out, and then take that win. GG's to our opponent. The next team I'm going to be using was recommended by, and I'm so sorry, I'm going to absolutely butcher this username. I like how I'm creating a video to show appreciation to all of these women, and then I'm just butchering everyone's username. But the next team was recommended by, I think it's LNDS Juice Monies? Did I get it right? Anyways, she recommends a lead of Weezing and a safe switch of Tentacruel and a closer of Trevenant. Now, unfortunately for us, in the first game I play with this team, I see a really strong Core Breaker. It is going to be Dugong. I thought I could go for Overheat immediately and do quite a bit of damage to this Dugong, but my opponent went ahead and shielded that. That's not great for me. I do bring in Tentacruel then, and I try to do as much neutral damage as I can to the Dugong. Unfortunately, Dugong is super tanky. They weaken us with a Drill Run, and then they swap into their own Tentacruel. Now, their Tentacruel should be in a good place to win this. However, I go for an Acid Spray on the first move, and then I'm able to land the Sludge Wave. It puts my opponent into the red, but my opponent had energy there that they could have thrown. I guess they didn't want me to farm them down, so it makes sense to let their Tentacruel go down there. Then my opponent brings Dugong back in. I'm able to bait with a Brutal Swing, and then I make it to Overheat. We CMP tie, and I really thought this was going to take the Dugong out, but it doesn't. They live with 1 HP, and then they're able to take our Weezing out. And my opponent has a Tropius in the back. Unfortunately for me, I am going to lose this. I think if I was able to take that Dugong out with the Weezing, I might have had a chance there. But unfortunately, we are going to take a loss there. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to be met with a Tropius on the lead. My opponent immediately swaps into a Poliwrath. Now, I farm up a little bit of energy on my Weezing before I swap into my Tentacruel, because I know Tentacruel is going to absolutely wall Poliwrath, and I am going to need that energy on Weezing later. So I bring in Tentacruel, I farm up as much energy as I can, and then I throw Sludge Wave because my opponent is not in Acid Spray range. I didn't think my opponent would shield, but because they shielded, I decided to let Tentacruel go. In my mind, I can handle Tropius with Trevenant with shields down, so it is going to be a little bit tricky but let's see how it plays out. My opponent has a Bruxish in the back. Unfortunately, it is going to be aligned to Weezing, and the confusions are going to be hitting for super effective. I swap immediately into Trevenant, and my goal here is just to get my opponent's shields out of the way and also land one Shadow Ball on the Tropius. If I can land one Shadow Ball on Tropius, they will be in Brutal Swing range, and if I can have 2 Brutal Swings, one for Trevenant and then one for the Bruxish, then I should be in a good position. But my opponent was going to reach a move. I didn't want them to reach a move, so I went ahead and I threw the Brutal Swing immediately, and then I should be able to land a Brutal Swing here on Bruxish, and it puts them super low. Again, Bruxish is very squishy, so we're able to take them out with the Weezing and take that win. Also, that was up against a friend, so GG's to them and good luck on your next matches. And finally, last but not least, we're going to be using Shoutout's team, which is going to be a lead of Lanturn, a safe swap of Roserade, and a closer of Araquanid. I really like this team, and this team got her to page 1 of the leaderboards. Up first, we are going to be seeing a Tropius on the lead, and Tropius is a core breaker for this team. It is going to be able to hit for super effective against all of the Pokemon. Tropius actually wins the matchup against Lanturn because unfortunately the Leaf Blades are going to be hurting. Now, my plan was to weaken it with a Thunderbolt and then swap into my Roserade. We swap into Roserade, and then my opponent brings out a Dugong. This is unfortunate for me. It would have been nice to see the Dugong up against our Araquanid because Araquanid will resist everything from this. At least we're able to take a shield from them by baiting with a Weather Ball. We also land the second Weather Ball, and then I let Roserade go. I'm just going to bring Araquanid in, and I'm going to try to go for a full farm down on that Dugong. However, my opponent realizes what I'm going to do. They swap Tropius back in, and then they let their Tropius go. I'm able to take them out with a Bug Buzz, and my opponent has a Poliwrath in the back. Now, Araquanid is going to be resisting everything from Poliwrath, but Poliwrath is also going to be resisting everything from Araquanid, and also we were debuffed, so I swapped into Lanturn so that I could clear the debuff, and also so that I could try to get the Poliwrath weak. Lanturn did its job, and it got my opponent's final shield out of the way. That means now I can land a Bug Buzz on the Poliwrath, get it super low, and then my opponent is going to bring Dugong back in, throw a Drill Run, but Drill Run is resisted, and they realize that they were going to lose this match, so they top left. GG's to our opponent, and that was the final win we needed to conclude this challenge. And I have a few final thoughts. I think all of these teams are really great. I would highly recommend that you guys try them out. I had so much fun making this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Anyways, that brings us to the end. If you guys like my content, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like, it helps me out so much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!